Hello! It's February 1st, which means it's time for another wrap-up. One thing I have to say this time is that I feel like the last couple of times I've done wrap-ups, I've always been like, this month flew by, I can't believe how fast it went. But this time, I swear, January was just like the first 3 quarters of the year, and the next 11 months are just going to be the last 11 weeks of the year. Do you know what I mean? It was like, there was this meme that someone created that I saw that it was like us at the beginning of January, and it was like Fred and George in Goblet of Fire just like standing around laughing, and then us at the end of January, and it was Fred and George once they'd taken the aging potion to like put their name in the Goblet of Fire and like they had beards and stuff, and I was like, wow, I relate to that so hard because it feels like I haven't even been back here for a month, but it feels like it's been forever since I was up skiing with my family. But the good thing about that is that I read 13 books in their entirety this month. That's pretty good. And I have 2 other books that I'm currently working on, so like we're getting there, you know? So that's a lot of books to talk about, so I'm just gonna dive right in. The first book that I read in 2020 was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It is safe to say that I absolutely loved this book. I know that it's been going around the internet, the bookternet, yeah, that's what it's called, the bookternet a lot recently because everyone's been loving it because it's amazing. It's so good. I don't know how you could not love it because it's amazing and so good. For those of you who don't know, this is about Alex and Henry. Alex is the son of the President of the United States, who is a woman, and Henry is the Prince of Wales, I believe, is one of the princes of England. And they've sort of had like a little bit of a rivalry for a long time now, but it's not like they want to kill each other rivalry, it's more like they sort of sabotage each other sometimes rivalry. And then there's this one incident where they sort of get into a fight and they cause like a big scene, and so to combat that in the media, their respective handlers say, okay, you guys are gonna like become friends and you guys are gonna have a friendship now. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it, because I feel like although you might have heard about this book already, anything else would be kind of a spoiler. This book is beautiful. I loved how the political climate was addressed in this book. I loved how like so many different relationships were addressed. It was amazing. And I read this book so fast. It's like 500 pages or something like that. 415 pages. This book is 415 pages, and it doesn't really look it. It's not like huge, but he's a hefty boy. I read this in like a day and a half. Hold on, I'm gonna check my Goodreads because I know I wrote it down in Goodreads. I read it in one day because I was so obsessed. I just sat on the couch and read. It was amazing. Then I read a book that I don't have with me right now because I read it while I was at home and I left it at home because I was like, I don't want to bring it. But I brought that book back with me because I was like, I'm probably gonna want to reread this in the next couple of months, so I'm just gonna bring it with me. And that was Find Me by Tahereh Mafi, which is the bind-up of the Shatter Me novellas that go in between, oh god, Restore Me and Define Me, and then Define Me and Unite Me, because Unite Me is coming out in May, I want to say. I'm going to make a 2020 releases video where I talk about all the releases I'm excited about for 2020. What was it? I was talking about Find Me. So Find Me is 2 novellas that are set in between each of them. So I've already read the first one, Shadow Me. I wanted to read that before I read Define Me. Oh my gosh, there's so many titles. There's so many me's, Anyway, so I got that on Kindle like when it first came out, but then I didn't get Find Me? Whatever the second one was with like the glittery eye, or maybe that was Shadow Me. So much confusion. The second story, that one came out like back in September, and I waited to get the bind up to read it just because I knew that I could get the bind up in December, and then that Imagine Me wasn't going to come out till like April or May this year. It was pretty good. I wouldn't like it's not like my new favorite book. I realized I didn't talk about this because I never do. I can't really describe this book. I hate to break it to you, I can't really describe this book. It's just because they're novellas, so they assume that you know everything else about the Shatter Me universe, and then they're set so far into the series, like if I tried to like talk about them, like spoiler city for the first books, so I mean, they're about Kenji, who's like one of the best characters because he's funny. In the first trilogy, I feel like he's a little bit of like comedic relief because everyone's so serious all the time. And then he has a personality too. He's not just like there to like, hey guys, how's it going, you know? But like, I don't know what that was. Anyway, he develops a lot more, especially reading from his point of view in the stories. I don't remember much about these first books, in case you couldn't tell, because I read them so long ago. But I'm still gonna talk about them. Yeah, okay. Next, I read Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosiee Thor. I first heard about this back in like September. All I knew about it was that it was like a space drama and there was a lesbian romance, and I was like, sold, I'm in, let's do this. And then I found out that there's Ace Rep, and I was like, Ace Arrow, I should clarify, Ace Arrow Rep, because that's a very important distinction. Anyway, this book, I read this book once again in like 2 days while I was flying back here from visiting my family. Why did that take so much out of me? Anywho, so I read like this much of it right here, just sitting in the Dublin airport waiting for my flight from Dublin to Bristol. I was so sleep deprived and I kind of wanted to cry because this book was so good and I was just like dying. Yeah, this book is about, there's 3 sort of main characters. There's Nathaniel, Eliza, and Anna. Anna is like, I don't know how to describe this in a way that would make a lot of sense. I guess I should reread the description, maybe that'll help. So Anna is an outlaw mechanic, I guess you would call her, because I don't know what else to call her. There's a society who's really, really against using technology to fix people, but Anna's grandfather created this thing called the Ticer, T-I-C-C-E-R, it's like an acronym, that can replace like your heart for when there's like, because there was this disease that was like affecting infants' hearts, so he had to like crack open infants' chests and put a Ticer in so that they would live, basically. And Anna has one of these, but you can't really tell from the outside, so she keeps it hidden because it's kind of illegal. But she's also a mechanic, like I said, an outlaw mechanic, so she goes into like the big city to like help people with mechanical issues. And Nathaniel is the son of the commander of the city, or like, I suppose you could say mayor, but I don't think he's called a mayor, but he's the mayor basically. And Nathaniel feels like a failure because his dad doesn't really like him very much. His dad just sort of sees him as a failure instead of like something good. And like that's explored a lot more than that, but that's like where we're at the beginning. So he goes on this mission. He's like, I want to catch the technician so that I can make my father proud, essentially. And then the third main character, Eliza, is like, so this whole society has this one queen, and the queen lives in like a satellite or like a spaceship off of the planet where everyone else is. So Eliza is the queen's eyes because the queen wears a veil all the time, so it's like a metaphor. But Eliza's like the queen's spy. She knows all these assassin things. And then finally the queen is like, you have to go down to this planet and spy on them for me, and you're going to pretend to be the mayor's son's fiance. So she comes down planet side and like starts snooping around while Nathaniel's trying to catch Anna, while Anna's trying to avenge things. Like a whole lot more goes on, and like I feel like this is a horrible description, and like honestly, you know what, I will link all of these books in the description, so just go read an actual synopsis, because like that was trash. Because there is so much beautifulness in this story, and I can't believe that I actually like that this story was like, part of me is like, I don't even know how this story was written, because it's just like amazing, and like everyone needs to read it. Everyone needs to read it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, bye. I don't know what else to say, because it's also been so long since I've read it, but I remember vividly loving it so much, so it's like, okay, next I read Illuminae by Aime Kaufman and Kristoff, and oh my sweet goodness, this book had me deceased, basically. This is my library copy because my sister owns all 3 of the books in hardcover, so I didn't want to buy them myself. And I like the hardcovers better, and I probably couldn't find the hardcovers here, so I'm just gonna either wait to buy the hardcovers myself or just not buy them and mooch off my sister whenever I want to reread them, because I'm sure it's gonna happen. These books, well, this first book, they all have different plots, obviously. They're not all the same plot. That would be so dumb. This book is about an illegal mining planet that gets blown up by hostiles, and then people from the illegal mining planet escape onto ships that are running away from the ships that blew them up. And then this book specifically follows two characters on two different ships, Katie and Ezra, who were together and then had a fight and broke up, but like both still have feelings for each other very, very obviously. And Katie's like a hacker. She's really good with computers. And Ezra he goes into the military. He like helps them, you know, fight things, blah, blah, blah. This book is hard to explain. If you haven't heard much about it, it's written in a really, really cool format where it's all like IMs and like emails, and then like there's parts where someone describes what's happening like from a video that they've seen. There's parts where there's like a supercomputer talking. It's written in this like really cool format. There's like, here, I'll show you. There's like black pages and like crazy text and all that stuff. It's really cool. I really recommend it. And the thing is that like these books are huge. Like this book has 600 pages. But you read it so fast because it happens so quickly. Like each book takes place over the span of like a day or two. So there's so much going on, there's so much action that like you need to know what's happening all the time, and you just can't help but read it really, really fast. I've also heard the audiobooks for this series are amazing because they're like full cast and they're narrated really well. I personally don't enjoy listening to audiobooks when I read a book for the first time, which is why I didn't pick up the audiobook, but if you're an audiobook person, get on that. This book came out in like 2016, so if you're not on the hype, I don't know where you are. I mean, I guess 2015. Never mind. This book came out in like 2015, so if you haven't heard about it, you're not on the hype train. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I was doing until January, but we're here now, so. Okay, so next I reread Fence Volume 1, which I first read back in October, I want to say, because I found Volume 2, and so I wanted to reread Volume 1 to read Volume 2. I picked them up after I read Heartstopper. So Heartstopper was like my very first foray into reading a lot of, like, reading graphic novels, because I didn't read a lot of graphic novels before that. I'd read a couple, but like, Heartstopper was the first time I like loved a graphic novel. Do you know what I mean? And I was really excited about these books, and I was like, oh yes, another graphic novel. And these are very different from Heartstopper, so don't pick these up thinking like, oh, this is going to be like Heartstopper, because they're not like Heartstopper at all. Nothing is like Heartstopper, but I'll talk about that later because I can't not. They're still really, really good. It's just that my brain was like high on Heartstopper and just saw all the ways that these weren't like Heartstopper instead of seeing the good things about these books. But they're still good, they're still great. I'm not, sorry, I feel like I sound like such a downer right now, but these books are great, I promise. These books are about, not him, well, him a little bit, but this kid named Nicholas Cox. I think his last name's Cox. His name is Nicholas. And he's a fencer. He's the illegitimate son of like a really famous fencer, so no one really knows that he exists. And he's working on getting into fencing school. And this is like his rival, Seiji Katayama. That was not the right word. Oh god. Seiji Katayama. I can't say that name properly. Yeah. I learned a lot about fencing, so that's good. Next, oh my gosh, this was great. I'll talk about this more at the end of the video, but I'm reading Words of Radiance right now by Brandon Sanderson, and if you guys didn't hear me talking about The Way of Kings back in like September and October, those books are incredibly large and dense, and they're hard to get through. So every once in a while when I'm reading them, I gotta take a break and like read something else. So this was one of those times. I was like, yeah. So I just picked this up and read this an entire afternoon. It was an excellent afternoon, I must say. This book is about, well, I think it kind of says a lot about it from the cover. So it's like witches and like there's like drama within this, like these 4 characters, but then there's also like external drama, obviously. What's the main character's name again? Hannah. Okay. Wow. The main character, Hannah, is a witch, and this is one of her friends slash her ex, Victoria. Victoria? Victoria. That's her name. Veronica. No, Victoria's not her name. Veronica, and then that's her best friend. I don't remember any of the names from this. Why am I so bad? I don't remember what her name is. Gwen? No. Does it start with a G? Why can't I remember? No, not him. We don't like Gemma. I was right. It does start with a G. So, Hannah, Veronica, Gemma, and then this is Mallory? Morgan. 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 And they're witches and they're trying to solve a mystery because they live in Salem. And, like, there's been some weird activity and they're like, gotta go check that out. This book is great. I love this book. Despite me not being able to remember any of the characters' names, I did love this book. Promise you, I did love this book. I can't wait for book 2, which is coming out, like, in March, so very excited for that. I gotta say that this book went a lot darker than I thought it would, because in the beginning it's super, like, fluffy and, like, light, and it's like, oh, there's all this, like, high school drama, and, like, yeah, there's this other, like, witchy plot, but obviously because there's witches in it. But I guess it's just the stuff that happens gets a lot darker than I thought it would, which isn't a bad thing. It's actually really great, because I think that it really brings the, like, fluffy contemporary, like, story down to earth more, and like, I'm not really into reading, like, high school drama, so that plot really helped draw me into the story when I was like, oh, this high school drama thing again, can we let it go? Yeah. Quality book. Go read it. Why do I do this? Next, I read Fence Volume 3, which is obviously the 3rd volume in the ones I talked about before. Once again, like, I just don't know how to talk about this books. Like, they're good. I like to learn about fencing, because although I consider myself pretty pacifistic, I still like learning about fighty things. I don't know why. And, like, I enjoy the characters and stuff. I don't, like, apparently I can't talk about this. It's good. I like it. Next, I reread Scythe by Neil Shusterman, because, I need to read The Toll, obviously. I talked about that in my last video. It's a good book. Like, why do I not know how to talk? I can't talk about books anymore. Every single book I'm like, it's good. Here's a really bad synopsis. Thanks for watching. Like, this book is about a world where disease, like, and death have been conquered. So even if you contract a disease or if you do something that would have made you die in what they call the mortal age, you go to a revival center and you're just revived after like a couple of days and you're totally fine. So to combat like the rising like overpopulation and all that stuff, because you know, if no one dies, then and everyone keeps on living, and like what you can do is once you get too old, you can what do they call it? Set yourself back. Set yourself back? I don't remember what it's called. It's when they like make themselves go back into a younger body. So they can make themselves look younger once they reach a certain age. They can have like, there's just a lot of things happen. So to combat this deathlessness, you know, for lack of a better word, that wasn't a word. Anyway, they have these people called Scythes who are basically just there to kill people randomly to keep the population in check, basically. Each Scythe has a yearly quota that they have to fulfill to keep the population down. This book follows two characters, Citra and Rowan. Why do I call him Ronan? Rowan. Citra and Rowan, who are both chosen to be one of like the pretty famous Scythe's apprentices. And basically he's having them both train, and then in the end one of them will win the position of Scythe and one of them will go back to their life. And so at first both of them are like sort of purposefully failing because neither of them really want to be a Scythe, but as time goes on they see the good in the world and they see that like the reason that they need Scythes, and so they're both kind of like, maybe I will win. We'll see. Yeah. Told you I'm not good at talking about these books. This book is amazing. There's such an interesting conversation in here about morality and who gets to preside over life and death, and how the world gets taken over, like, by this want to be younger and want to be prettier and want to live forever, I guess. And this world is described as a utopia, but if you know anything about the utopia dystopia, it's like, if you think about it, the utopia dystopia scale is like a circle, right? So on this side we have dystopia, not like this whole side, but like the point right here where my middle finger is, that's like the dystopia, and the point right here is the utopia. So from here to here is going from dystopic to utopic. But utopia and dystopia are so close together that it's like they're not actually that different. It's just that dystopia, a lot of the time, you can really see the difference, like the reason that it's bad, whereas utopia, it's a lot easier to hide. But there really is no such thing as a utopia, because there's always going to be some sort of corrupt thing or like dangerous thing that's going to disrupt this utopic society back into like dystopia, basically. Yeah, I can't wait to reread Thunderhead and then read The Toll, because I think it's going to be amazing. I don't know how the trilogy is going to wrap up, but it's fine. This is while I was still reading Scythe, but I'm just going to talk about it right in here. Or maybe it was while I was reading, yeah, it was while I was still reading Scythe. I haven't reread this whole thing, because I read this thing originally back in like July, but I reread Every Exquisite Thing, because it's my favorite story in this book. Which is the story of Anna Lightwood, for those of you who know this anthology, the series. And then, in case you can tell, I also want to reread a couple of other stories, so I just put my bookmark in so that I know where they are, but yeah. I should show you the cover, because this is like the cover of the whole thing, but each individual story has its own like cover. Look at this. Look at this beautifulness. I love it. I love it so much. It's so pretty. Every Exquisite Thing makes me cry every time I read it. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and I love it so much. And I want to protect Anna Lightwood with my life. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah. I can't talk about this entire collection without spoiling 100 different things from the rest of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. So if you want to know, don't read this book yet. If you haven't read this book like somewhere in the Dark Artifices series, because all these stories came out in between Lord of Shadows and Queen of Rare Darkness. So this book does contain spoilers for the original series and then the Infernal Devices trilogy, so warning. Prochaine. Next, I read The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. Why did I just blank out on everything? This book is about this character named Jessica, and this is like sort of a continuation of Geekerella, which I will talk about next, but it's also not, because it's different characters, but it's set in the same world with the same things, so it's like, it's kind of weird. Anyway, in Geekerella, here, I'll talk about these books at the same time, because they're close enough together that I can talk about them at the same time. In Geekerella, there's this really like well-known TV show called Starfield that's being adapted into a movie, and one of the main characters in Geekerella is the star of the movie, and one of them is a fan. And then in this book, Princess and the Fangirl, one of the main characters is Jess, and she plays the main girl character in Starfield, and the other character is Imogen. I never know how to say that name. I always want to say Imogen in my head, but I'm pretty sure it's Imogen or Imogen. Imogen? I'm not good with that name. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Imogen. And Jess and Imogen look really, really similar to each other, and they sort of accidentally switch places for a panel that Jess was supposed to be on. And Jess sort of sees this and gets really mad, because she's like, why are you doing this? Why are you impersonating me? Like, you shouldn't do that. And then, right before this happened, Jess accidentally threw away the script for Starfield 2, and someone found it, and is now, like, posting pictures everywhere of, like leaking the script, basically. And so she gets really mad, and she's like, I can't do all of my star responsibilities and catch this guy at the same time, so she hires Imogen to go be her, essentially, on panels and in signings and stuff, while Jess tries to go catch the person who originally stole and is leaking the script. I think that I made that a lot more complicated than it needed to be. There's a lot of other things that go on in there. This book is really good. It was really cute. And there's a lot of... Both of these books have a lot of really great discussions about like fan culture and stuff, which is a really cool thing for me. I think that not everyone can relate because these guys are such hardcore fangirls, and I feel like some of us book readers are still like very much hardcore fan people, but can't necessarily relate to the way that these people are fans of things. I don't know how to describe. Like, these books are very much about cons and like the ultimate fan, whereas like I feel like not everyone can relate to that, you know what I mean? But they're amazing. So if those are the sort of things that you enjoy, like... And these are both retelling, so this one's obviously a Cinderella retelling, this one's The Prince and the Pauper. Yeah, I guess I talked a little bit about Geekerella. I don't really know what else to say. They're both really good. I read them really quickly, which was really fun. I read them each in like a day, which is really nice, which is, I think, is a really great way to read them. Yeah. I guess that's all I'm gonna say. Let's continue. This is a mess. This is a mess. Next, I read Gemina by Aime Kaufman and Kristoff, which is the sequel to Illuminae. This, I didn't realize this wasn't going to follow the same characters as Illuminae, so at first I was like, excuse me, where are Katie and Ezra? Why is this different? And then I got really attached to the characters that were in this book. So yeah. It's written in the same style as Illuminae, which is really cool, and it's another space adventure, but it like, the details of this one spoiled the details of Illuminae, so I can't really talk about it. It's good. Go read this trilogy, even though this book is like 650 pages. Doesn't matter. You could read it in like a day. Or two. Just read it. It's amazing. I genuinely don't know what else to say about this book. Because I can't talk about it. Okay. And then, these are the last two books I finished this month. I reread Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2, which I lent to a friend, so I don't have it right now, to read Heartstopper Volume 3, which is technically coming out next week, but a lot of bookstores have shelved it early, so I went into town on Wednesday, I think, and found this book, because, like, I just had to. We've all heard me talk about Heartstopper a million and one times. I feel like I shouldn't talk about it again, but like, I also have to. I'm required to talk about these books. It's part of my contract as a Heartstopper lover. These books! I've talked about this book before. I'm going to put that one down. I'll just talk about this one for a second. I can't talk about it very much because obviously it's the third volume, so if you haven't read the first and second one, like, that's going to be kind of a struggle for you. In this book, the gang is going to Paris on a summer trip sort of thing for school. And there's lots of really great conversations in here about, like, coming out and accepting yourself and homophobia and all this stuff. I do want to say there is a trigger warning for self-harm and eating disorders. So if either of those things, like, are triggering to you, this particular volume, neither of those things are really talked about in Volume 1 or Volume 2, so, like, please go enjoy those. But if either of those things are triggering to you, you might be careful reading this book. I really don't want anyone to have an adverse reaction to this book, because it's amazing. And, like, the thing is that I've read this twice now this month. I literally got this on Wednesday. It's Saturday. Yeah, I've already read this twice. And every time I read it, I can't stop smiling. You can tell I tabbed it because that's what I do with these books. I tab all the parts that make me happy and, like, remind me of good times and stuff. I freaking love these books. And they're just so important. They're such important books. And I've heard a couple things, like, people say that, like, you shouldn't read these books without having read Solitaire. And I personally haven't read Solitaire, so I can't really speak to this. But you can enjoy them just as much not having read Solitaire. I would like to read Solitaire now that I've read these, because I really want to know more about Tori, who's the main character in Solitaire, and Charlie's older sister in these books. And these characters show up in Solitaire, so I'm excited about that. I feel like you're going to enjoy them without having read Solitaire. I I have to read Solitaire and get back to you, obviously. I'm now wrapped up in all the feels for these books and I want to reread them again. Even though I've already reread them twice. And I've read this book like 3 times this past month. Every single month, you better bet I'm going to be holding these books up because I'm going to reread them every single month because I just can't not. Yeah. Okay, great. Now I'm going to talk about the books that I'm currently reading. I'm technically only currently reading Obsidio by Aime, Kaufman, and Kristoff. I'm on page 184, so like, still got like quite a bit of book left. But I would like to finish this in the next couple of days because it's really good and it's like really intense, and like these books, when you get into it, especially when you get like the very beginning is a little bit like you're getting to know the characters, so you're not super into it, but like even just like this far in, like now you're invested in the characters. Now you want to know what happens. Like you need to know what happens. You know what I mean? So yeah, this book is the 3rd book in the Illuminae Files trilogy. I don't know how else to talk about this book, like I said, for Gemina, because spoilers for Gemina and Illuminae. But it's really good and you should read it. And then I'm also, that's the book that I'm like currently trying to make progress in. The other book that I'm in the middle of but put down so that I could read that is Words of Radiance by Sanderson, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Once again, a hefty boy. I'm on page, what page is this? 463, I think. So I'm like a third, I think I'm almost a third of, no, I'm more than a third of the way through. I'm just over a third of the way through. So I am making good progress. I'm slowly but surely making my way through it. And I gotta say, this book, for me, personally, is a lot more captivating than when I first read Words of Radiance, because, wait, this is Words of Radiance. Why am I like this? When I first read Way of Kings. Because in Way of Kings, I wasn't attached to the characters yet. I was still learning about them. I was still kind of annoyed at all the characters except for one of them. Now, in this book, we're expanding on the characters we already know, which is great, which is excellent, which I love. And my favorite character from the first book has a lot more dialogue in this book, which I'm like, yes. Yes, because I just want to hear about her life and no one else. Not no one else, but like I love her. And I think the plot's picking up a little bit. The first book, it was a lot of introduction to the world, to the characters, to how their sort of goings-ons work. But now there's a lot more plot, which is like, I do love a good character-driven novel. Excellent. But sometimes it's nice to have some plot too. So yeah, that's where we're at. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below a book that you read in January that you loved, or one that you didn't love so much, or one that like didn't meet your expectations, or talk about one of the ones I read because they're amazing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!